Going across live now to Pauline Hanson, the One Nation leader, who joins us from North Queensland, up north of the Daintree at a place called Wujal. Thanks for joining us, Pauline. I just speaking to you during the break. We know there's a croc somewhere in that water behind you. I'm going to have to keep an eye on the background as I chat to you.
Please do. I've got a couple of people here watching, but the CEO just came down to say, listen, be very careful. It was spotted here walking across the rocks here on Tuesday. So it is in the area, and it has been wounded by the national parks trying to capture it. So it's not a happy croc as well, 7 metres.
7 metre croc, and you're standing with your back to the water, happy. That's how keen you are to speak to me.
No. If you see me running, okay, I'm out of here.
Okay, maybe that's what they need down in the Senate.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't knock that, but, yeah, we need a bit more than just crocs in the Senate to get rid of anyway, we won't go there, Chris. Many other things to talk about. Yeah,
now tell us about the Senate. Tell us about the tax cuts. You can see Labor starting to divide a bit on this now. Some of them, including Peter Khalil, starting to talk openly about why they should just accept the government's mandate. If they can't split off the tax cuts, let the whole lot through. That's the sensible thing to do?
No, it's not the sensible thing to do. Chris, we're talking about $158 billion worth of tax cuts. And I'll go on about this again. It's that far down the track. How do we know what the economy is going to be like at that time? We're only talking about tax cuts, those people who are paying taxes in the country. Those people on pensions and welfare payments are not going to get any benefit whatsoever and to actually help pay for the bills. I've actually said that we need to build a coal-fired power station to give a surety and dispatchable and cheap power. The government giving their, bit of cuts is not going to cut it. Our electricity charges have tripled over the last few years, and these tax cuts are not even going to pay for those rising electricity prices.
Let's step through some of this stuff, Pauline Hanson. Let's step through some of this stuff.
Okay.
Firstly, the government clearly has a mandate for these tax cuts. It was a central issue at the election campaign, so they have a mandate. And presumably the reason you don't want Labor to wave them through is because that will eradicate your bargaining power on these other issues.
No, it's not, because it's very important what I'm hearing. I'm actually looking at businesses and small businesses and families and pensioners are doing it tough with rising electricity prices because of these renewables that they put in and subsidies that they are paying. It is bloody sheer mindedness that they're not really looking at the real issues that is happening in that country. You give tax cuts and they're saying it's going to drive the economy and create jobs. Well, let me tell you something. A lot of the goods that people were buying is product from overseas, from China, so the money will not stay in the country, it's leaving the country. If you built the reliable power and cheaper electricity prices, that's for the long term, and that's what we need in Australia.
But Pauline Hanson, these are separate issues.
They have a mandate. That's rubbish. That's right. No, it's not, because the RBA has now said today, they've come out just today and said that they need to drive down the unemployment numbers, and to do that we need infrastructure projects to create that employment, saying that they're going to put more money in the economy. I'd love to give people tax cuts. Even when I knocked back the corporate tax cuts over 50 million turnover, well, isn't it funny that Peter Costello came out and he said it's stupid to give tax cuts when you're looking 6 or 8 years down the track. Yep, it's sensible planning. That's what we need.
But Pauline Hanson, you're not the Treasurer and you're not even part of the government. It's not for you to deliver tax cuts or decide on economic policy. It's for you to exercise your role in the Senate based on what policies are put up to you, what legislation is put up to you. You talk about energy policy and tax policy.
Right.
The government surely has an extensive program on energy reform, which includes consideration of coal-fired power stations. It's also got an extensive infrastructure program it took to the election, and it's got the tax cuts.
Infrastructure money that they put aside is $75 billion in infrastructure. Where is it being spent? Where are the dams? Where's the water projects that we need to give water assurance and security in this country? They keep bringing in more and more migrants into the country. We don't have the infrastructure to provide for them. Where's the cheaper power for the people? They think that if they give them an $80 a year cut on it, whoopee-doo, when prices are rising more than that. I'm sorry, they don't always get it right. And I was voted in by the people to actually, it's a house of review. and people are relying on me with my decision making, and I'm not just going to tick everything that they want to put up. It's not going to work that way, and I will state my case to the people, and I state my case to Mathias Cormann or anyone else who wants to listen to me. And a lot of things I've put to them has been correct in what I've said to them. So I don't believe they have got it right with these tax cuts. They're not prepared to listen to the people.
I don't doubt that you'll make your case, and I don't doubt that you'll let them know exactly what you think. But I just pointed out, where you talk about electricity prices, infrastructure and tax cuts, these are all on the agenda. And I would dare say it's within your remit to claim credit for some of those policies. You probably influenced those policy directions in the last term of government and in the lead up to the election. And I just would have thought it might be better to work with refining some of these policies rather than trying to stand in between the Australian taxpayers and promise tax cuts.
I spoke to Mathias Cormann this morning, and he gave me a phone call, and he said, I'm not negotiating with crossbenchers with this at all. And he said, you know, we have our 3 stages, we're going to pass that no matter what. That's what they want. They're not prepared to actually look at it, listen to reasoning over this whole thing. And I just don't think it's the best way to go with it, Chris. It's not. And I have to worry about the economic stability of the country further down the track. The RBA are saying about now they're going to have to reduce interest rates again because of the way the economy is going.
All right,
you know,
Pauline Hanson,
there's other ways.
Just let me pick up on that breaking news, because there's been a lot of focus on the fact that you haven't spoken to the government hadn't spoken to you. You took a call today from the Finance Minister, Mathias Cormann, and he told you that he's just not interested in negotiating with your claims.
Yeah, he's not interested in negotiating. He's basically saying we've got our tax package, that's what we're putting up, the 3 stages, and he's not negotiating. He said he has never said that he's negotiating with crossbenchers at all. So
that means that if the Labor Party... If Labor falls over the line, if they do what Peter Khalil says, then the tax cuts will sail through, your demands will fall by the wayside, you'll be left standing by a river in North Queensland.
Oh, that's a load of rubbish, you know, talking about he's got a mandate. You know, let me tell you something, and this came from a fellow in Innisfail that I met, John, and he said, you know what, the Prime Minister, he's the Stephen Bradbury of politics. He didn't win the election. It was because Bill Shorten, the Labor Party, fell over, and that's why he came through. The people didn't particularly want the Liberal Party in their policies, but they had nothing better. And can I tell you that our vote in the Senate increased by nearly 34% nationally, and our vote in the lower house, House of Reps, increased by 150%. So there is an increase for the support for One Nation at the last election to what it was in 2016. And in 4 states, we just missed out on the 6th seat. So, you know, people are interested in what I have to say. If you think I'm just going to tick and pass the Liberal Party's policies, think twice, because I won't. I got the apprenticeship scheme up of 1,630 apprentices.
I think we're going to have to cut it off there.
I stopped the buying up of land.
I know that we've been through that before.
Yep.
I appreciate it. We are just out of time. Thanks so much for joining us, Pauline Hanson. I appreciate that. Pauline Hanson there
All right, thanks, Chris.